Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Hello, welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we are putting the business back into lady business. It's not what it was about. Today we have Kathleen Entwistle. She is a private wealth advisor from Morgan Stanley. Hello, Kathy.
Hey, JJ. Thanks for having me today. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Always happy to talk about women and money and how to get more money to women so we can make great decisions about things that are most important to us.
That is awesome, because it's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I want to first kind of start about like your background and, going into like what exactly a private wealth advisor does.
Sure. So my background is interesting in the sense that I stayed at home. Actually, I started at a bank. Then I had 3 kids, and I actually stayed home for 12 years, which not everybody knows that. But I stayed home for 12 years, and I felt like I always needed to be doing something. So I realized as I was like pushing baby carriages around like the local park that none of my friends really understood money. And a lot of them had their husbands take care of money. And I really am a big believer that money is power and money is decisions. And if you give your money away, you're giving away your opportunity to make decisions for yourself, which is your power.
Yeah.
So I think regardless of how happy you are in a relationship, or if you're single, whatever it is, money is your way of putting yourself in a good position to make decisions about what you want and how you want to live your life. It's nothing more than a tool. You just need to understand it and build it so you have the options to make the choices that are good for you. So back to, pushing the strollers around, I realized that a lot of women were not comfortable with money and they didn't really feel comfortable taking care of money. So I went to my local YWCA and I said, I would love to teach classes for women and investing as a volunteer. And they said, we'll give it a try. Well, I had 40 women show up.
Amazing.
On my first class.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And it proved the point that we want to learn about it. We just don't know where to start. And it can feel really intimidating. And sometimes we feel silly asking questions because we think everybody else knows. And the truth of the matter is, most people don't really understand their money. And it's just a matter of starting. And it's not just women, it's men too. And it's not just people who are not in the financial world. There's plenty of people that are in the financial world, but they're dealing with corporations and the financial institutions as opposed to their personal money. Everyone needs to learn about their personal money and build a relationship. So started teaching courses, taught for a bunch of years, and women would come up to me after the class, oh my God, this is amazing. Nobody's ever explained it to me this way. My broker talks over my head, or he only talks to my husband. Can you be my broker? Can you explain my statements to me? And I was like, oh, I'm just volunteering. Like, I don't do that for a living. I'm just trying to help you, get educated and feel confident. And then after, I don't know, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th person, I was like, wait a minute, there's a need for this.
Yeah.
So then I went and I did all the things to put me in a good position to start as a financial advisor. The financial advisor is basically somebody who is going to look at it's not just investing, because I think a lot of people think money is all about investing too. There's so much more to it. There's investing, but there's also your cash flow, like what's coming in and what's coming out, and understanding how to generate positive cash flow, just like you would in a business for your personal, profile. And then there's protection. What do you mean protection? Well, you want to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. You might maybe insurance can fit in there, estate planning, trusts and wills, and who do I want to take my kids if something happens to me, or who's going to pull the plug if I need that? Like, it's just those kind of questions people don't think about.
Right.
And then there's charitable giving, philanthropy, like what matters to you, what's important to you. So we look at all of that. And I like to start every new client meeting out with what I call a discovery meeting. And it's a series of questions. And it's really interesting because those questions are designed to really get to the like qualitative part of somebody versus the quantitative part. Meaning, I never start with how much money do you have? I find that crass in a sense. Like,
Right.
it's good to know about money, yes, but it's not about how much you have. It's how you're building it, how much you're building towards, what it means to you, what it's allowing you to do. So my first question is, what does money mean to you?
Right.
Yes.
I love
I
that.
like if you pose it to somebody, it's a totally different conversation.
All right. So you ask them, what does money mean to you?
Yes. And really what I'm trying to set is, what are your priorities when it comes to your goals and your values? And then who are your important relationships? Who are the important people in your life? What are your resources? What do you have to right now to help you reach those goals? And what do we need to build? And then also just basically what your processes are. Who are your financial advisors, CPAs, attorneys? Who are the professionals that you work with? And how do you like to work with them? Do you like texts, emails, that sort of thing? So it's all about setting around the person's priorities. And I think that's a great place to start.
So, but this really requires like somebody who has a lot of money in order to hire you, right? Like how do women get there since we're so far behind in earning and compounded over time?
I agree that there's a lot of work to be done to get people in the right spot. But what I'll say too is, I took 12 years off and I started with a $30,000 job in 2001 when I was 36 years old. And it's like sometimes, and then I was laser focused and put my head down and just worked really hard and kept building. And I think that it's very possible for all of us to do that because I am certainly no different than anybody else. So what I would say to women, if you start now, start now is the first step. So if you have a retirement account, a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, these are all different types of retirement accounts that either companies help you set up or you set up on your own, maybe utilizing an advisor, a CPA. And you want to put the maximum amount that you can away every year. If your company, some companies will match a certain percentage of what you put away, max it out, put as much as you can in. It sounds silly, but literally if you were 25 years old and you put $5,000 away a year for 10 years and you got an average 8% return and you never put another dime away, by the time you were 65, you would have over $1 million. And that's time value of money and compound interest. So that's just an example. You put $50,000 away and now you have over $1 million.
Yeah.
It's not a bad gig, right? It's like,
no,
so it's just doing it sometimes. The old Nike motto, just do it. Like just start and have like a little process. And the more, I mean, if you exercise, you probably have like an exercise plan. I'm going to go twice a week to the gym and I'm doing cardio and I'm going to do 2 days of weight training. You just need to do the same with your finances. Oh, I'm going to put aside X dollars a month into my emergency fund, X into my retirement account, and X into like I'm building my wealth account, and start to do it that way.
So, which can be daunting though, right? I mean, a lot of people I know when I first started, and it's like, well, I don't want that money taken out of my check. Like I need that money. I live in New York. I want to have fun. Like, I mean, what do you tell the people, women when you're like, you got to invest in yourself? We're more expensive. We make less money and we're more expensive. Like,
well, it's interesting. First of all, you have to think about yourself. You want to enjoy yourself now for sure, but you also want to pay future self too. So it's like a combination. The best way to do it is to do it before it hits your bank account, because the minute it's in your bank account, it's so much easier to spend. So by taking your paycheck and sending it into a different account that's specifically for investments, just like you do specifically for your 401k, that will put that money aside, and then you don't have it, and then you don't plan on it. So I think that forced savings or pay yourself first is really sort of an overspoke about topic, but it's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because I think part of it too is what you talk about a lot, and that's asking for your worth, asking for the salary that you deserve, or asking for the amount of money that you're entitled to or that you're earning.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there is change. So my 26-year-old daughter just was given an opportunity to work at another firm, and she negotiated the salary up and the title up to where her next step would be at her current firm.
Right.
And she was telling me how excited she was that she got this job offer, and she was going to let her company know the next day. And when she told them, they said, "Oh my God, we had no idea that you were thinking of leaving. What do we need to do to match it?" And she negotiated that next salary and that next title, and she is at her company. So she had two companies vying for her. And I say this is because she was able to do that because of women like you and women like all of us that are out there fighting, for them to have that opportunity
Yeah.
to order and get it.
Good for her. That's just it, right? It's like taking that initiative and taking that control and then, negotiating for yourself so you can get more. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Because there's only a couple of ways to grow wealth. It's either to increase the money coming in or reduce the money going out. Those are the two critical areas, right? So it's either increasing your salary, asking for more, getting paid what you're worth, or reducing expenses and redirecting them. I would say a third way to increase your wealth is by investing versus saving.
Right. So you can either make more money or you can spend less money. But there's also an investing angle, right?
Yeah, there's definitely an investing angle. So a lot of women tend to be really conservative, and we don't want to lose our money. So we stick it in the bank and we don't invest it, and we just get very low interest. Now, what you need to know is if you invest it, you can grow your money over time, long periods of time. If you have invested in the markets, your money will grow. So if you can get a 7% return annually on your money, you will double your money every 10 years. So I think that's really powerful to know. If you've got a 30-year time frame, you have opportunity to multiply your money exponentially versus just having it grow just a tiny bit every year because you're only getting a little bit of interest.
Oh yeah.
So by investing, that is how you grow your money, or by doing deals, investing in companies that have exponential growth potential, or businesses. So I would say investing is a key word though, versus saving. I see so many people talk about saving. Yes, saving is important, but investing is the key to multiplying the money that you have.
But I mean, people hear about stock market crashes, the market going down. I've invested a bunch of, things on my own, and it's like, I invested it in January and it's down 30%. Like, how do I know it's going to go up and be,
Well, I hope you're not talking about this year, because if you invested in January and you're down 30% now, you're investing in the wrong thing.
No, it's in it's in cannabis, when cannabis is down right now. You know what I mean? So yes, that's like it's speculative, and it's like a bad, like probably example. No, my other stuff is not, but like, it's but there's talk of it going down. How do you, it could be scary. Like, what do you say to people when they ask those questions?
Right, absolutely. So I tend to really try to coach my clients, or the women that I still teach to this day. I still teach courses to women as a volunteer to help them like build their confidence around money. And I will talk about the ups and downs in the market and the fact that you have to stick with it. And the worst thing you can do is make an emotional decision when the markets go down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a key to avoid making that emotional decision. Okay. So last March, markets went down 30% in like a week or two, right? The markets just dropped tremendously. And half of my clients didn't even call me, or they said, "Oh, we know, just stick with it," right? We're not selling now. No, we're just staying with it. And the other half that maybe were newer and hadn't been through 4 or 5 market cycles with me already, we just talked to them. Listen, we're in for the long run. The way you can stay in the markets for the long run is if you have your emergency fund. So
Yeah.
that is also critical. If you have an emergency fund, you don't need to go into your investments to access liquidity or cash because you have an emergency fund for that purpose. And that is what helps people sleep at night, the emergency fund. Because that way, if something goes wrong, you have a fallback and you don't have to liquidate funds or figure out some way to beg, borrow, or steal from other, friends or family to help you out through a tough time. You want to be able to be in a position of strength. Having an emergency fund is a position of strength.
The emergency fund, though, that's in savings, right?
That's the only thing you have in savings is your emergency fund.
Right.
Short-term, liquid. And, I've had a lot of people say to me, it's so frustrating. Like, I don't want to put that money in an emergency fund. 6 months of your expenses, not 6 months of your salary. 6 months of your living expenses up to 12 months, depending on, how much wealth you have.
Right.
6 to 12 months in cash-like investments that you can get to at any moment. So that's money market, savings deposits. And it can be frustrating that money is not making a lot, but your other money will be making more money over long periods of time. And you need to have access to cash in case of an emergency. You lose your job. COVID was a great example. Nobody expected COVID to come around the corner and people needed to access cash quickly. If you have that money available, you don't panic because you don't need to go into the money in the market. You have time to let it return back to the normal growth levels. Does that make sense?
How do you grow all of them at the same time, though?
Yeah, I understand. Like, what do you pick first and what do you do first? So I always say there's got to be a method to the madness. So if you have credit card debt is the worst thing to have, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It is not good for your credit score. You have to pay off large amounts. You think you're paying off minimums, and over long periods of time, that principal that you borrowed is growing. The interest rates are obscene. If I could promise you in the investment world a 29.99% return every year, I couldn't stop everybody from coming, right? You'd be running to get those returns. Well, that's, credit cards are charging 12, 14, 16, 24, 28%. That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And think about it. When we go to an ATM machine and they charge $2, we get upset.
Yeah.
Imagine, like the credit cards are charging you way more than that. Yeah. So what I would say is, get rid of that first, have a plan to get rid of your credit card debt. And you want to start building. You can do more than one thing at one time. We're pretty busy and, talented people, right? All of us women. So I think you just need to set up those different funds. Like, this is my emergency fund. I need, making up a number, $50,000 in my emergency fund. I can afford to put away, $1,000 a month. It's going to take me a few years to build up that emergency fund, but eventually I'll have it, 4 years, whatever it is. You don't have to have it all on day one, just start building, and then also start building your retirement accounts. And at the end of the day, whether it's a side hustle, it's asking for more money, or just changing some of your habits, spending habits, it's important to do it because your finances affect your well-being. They affect your health, your mental health, and you want to have your financial picture in a good spot. It's important. And by sort of lining everything up, you can do that. I can give you my little story. I was in my 30s in the 90s, I think. And I will say that my kids were little. We didn't have a lot of money. And I went to what they called back then the envelope system, which people are like, what's the envelope system? I literally, when we would get a paycheck, I would put in an envelope, here's $30 for gas, here's like $100 for groceries. And I literally did not go past that money, and I had to stretch it. It's not a bad way to challenge yourself,
right?
To something like that. It just forces you into realizing okay, this is what I have.
Yeah.
And then you can decide and then put a little aside for fun money in an envelope there too. So I'm going to go for cocktails. Maybe I'll just order, one cocktail, when I go out with friends or whatever it is, or brunch. But I think it's important to have a good balanced life. I mean, we only go around once and you have to enjoy it, but you can also make other decisions that will help you build your wealth faster.
Yeah. So what do you see, as far as like women, what kind of like the difference when you're advising men versus women? What do we tend to do or make mistakes really? I mean, this is supposed to be learning, like, it's like, what can we learn from at this point,
Yeah. So I would say women tend to be more overwhelmed about money. And they feel that they don't know as much. But the truth of the matter is, I have male and female clients, and I would say there's been lots of studies on this too. Women can be very good at understanding money and investing money. It's a mindset, and you just have to change your mindset to say, I can do this, just like anything else. Can you open your own company, JJ? Can you like start a whole like justice department?
Yeah, but that was, I had to like talk myself into that. I had to have an executive
and you
coach,
have to talk yourself, right. Yeah, but that's what you do with your money situation too. Like, I just need to talk myself into like, I can do this. Like, really, truly, if you think about it, it should not be hard. What's hard is we have all these messages from when we were growing up that creep into the conversation and cause us to freeze. Like, okay, another question I ask people is, how did you grow up in your family with money?
Yes.
Right. And I know you've shared your money story, the way you grew up and how you overcame and moved forward from your own personal circumstances. Listen, when I was growing up, there was scarcity of money at a certain point. So you get like worried about it, like, will I have enough? And I'd say women tend to worry more about outliving their money than men do. And we also have all these stories. Oh, my parents fought. So anytime somebody says money, like my shoulders, and I get stressed out, or we weren't allowed to talk about money. It was very taboo, or we didn't have a lot of money, or, I've heard stories of, people losing their homes and seeing things being taken away from them when they were little because of some bad decisions that their parents made. That affects us. It affects us. So we have to understand where we're coming from and then translate that into how we can move forward with it and understand it's not that scary.
No, I know. Cause I still have a poverty mentality. I think I have no money at all times. And, I don't have like man money. I say I have white lady money, but still it's scary. And like, I'm a single mom to kids and, I'm constantly thinking about it, but that's just it. It's like, it's stressful. If, you have kids, you want to provide for them and you want to make sure that you can have a life. And, we all like dream about retirement, I think, for the most part. So, it's hard to think of a path to get there. And also for women, as it's like, the older they get, the more they're cast aside in their jobs and the less opportunities they have, unless we're creating them ourselves. I mean, I think we're changing that dynamic, but it can be very scary, doing that. And then when you're advising women like this, do you also help them figure out if they're going to make an investment or not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have questions about that all the time. At the end of the day, when I'm advising women, I would say it's to get comfortable and invest in what you know, right? So if you invest in things that I think back to Peter Lynch. He used to work at Fidelity and run like the Magellan Fund or something like that. And he used to go and ask his wife and his daughter, like, hey, I heard of this new company called The Limited. What do you think of it? Like, do you know it? Can you see it? Would you shop it? Would you buy it? Would you, invest in companies that you know and you believe in? Women want to change the world, I think.
Yeah.
We want to make an impact.
Yeah.
In so many different ways. So there's a lot of different ways now where you can invest in women businesses and things that are going to protect the environment for our children, for in companies that are making good decisions about who's sitting on their board or how they're hiring or how they're paying. There are companies that you can invest in or ways to invest to support that.
Right. No, it's so true. And I think, look, I've made an emotional decision I remember I was pregnant and Apple was tanking, and I called my financial advisor. I'm like, what do I, she actually sold it. She didn't talk me out of it. No, it was not a good idea. But,
Let me guess,
it's like, it's hard though, it's like somebody's going to hand over money to you and you make all the decisions on the money, right?
Yeah, I take it really seriously. I
I
mean,
would, yeah, I would assume, yeah.
this is somebody's livelihood, right? This is
Yeah.
they worked hard for this, and I am in their hands to make sure I help shepherd them through like the good
Yeah.
times and the bad and help them get to a better place. And sometimes I have to have really hard discussions with women, because there's also that mentality of somebody needs to take care of me at times.
Yeah.
And when you see that mentality, it's hard because we have to be in charge of ourselves. Like, I'm a big believer that I am not going to rely on anybody else for my livelihood or financial outcome other than myself. Like, who's going to do a better job than me? So that means that, like, taking that ownership and stepping up and realizing that sometimes there's hard things or hard conversations you have to have, like somebody who is not working and maybe divorced or widowed, and they're not used to working, and now they don't have that income from their spouse anymore, and it's really unfortunate and sad. But you can't expect to live that same lifestyle and not take some ownership in trying to recreate some of that income. Or, I give myself as an example. I was a stay-at-home mom. I just told you that. I hated having to have conversations with my husband about wanting to buy something. I felt like, oh my God, I'm asking him if I can buy something.
No.
It was, it was not fun. And I said, I don't want to ever have to rely on someone else when it comes to a decision about what I think is important to purchase or that I'd like to purchase. And that was one of the reasons why I went back to work. And I never looked back. It was so much fun to get back there and to like really do something I love and earn an income and see that income grow over time. And I'm with you in the sense that I see why so many women want to own businesses, because we have a better chance, in a sense, when we have our own business for success, because we can set the rules and we can work hard and we can get paid what we're owed or what we deserve, unless we're in a corporation where we're able to easily climb the ladder, work hard to climb the ladder.
Yeah. But I say that all the time. Like, when what's some advice or something actionable that women can do? I'm like, this is a really hard exercise for a lot of us, but it's like, take away all the money that your husband and or father and our family has given you and what's your actual worth by yourself. And then it's really scary, because if all that went away, then what would you have? And then, also, like you said, it's like, it's choices, right? Money doesn't make you happy, but it gives you the ability to think of other things, right? Because otherwise that's all you're thinking of. And, and it's a luxury not to think of that, because as you intimated, like, I grew up in a poverty, environment, and like, that's all we thought about. Like, it was a luxury to think about myself and like what I could be doing and daydreaming or, self-indulgence, self-care Sundays. Like, what's that? Like, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's so true. Amazing. Look, this is awesome. I know I could talk to you all day about money and putting money in women's hands, and all the work you're doing to educate women is literally like God's work, because we are scared of it, right? It's like, we are scared to do what we're told. It's like so icky to talk about money. So we got to go. Is there anything that you wanted to say that we didn't get to talk about?
I would just say, everybody says face your fears, right? You have to face your fears. And if your fear is money, just start thinking about it from the qualitative aspect. How does it make you feel? How can you, what kind of a life do you want to live versus the dollar amount? And that will help you embrace it more and then build the quantitative amount. So qualitative before quantitative will help you get there faster, is my advice.
Amazing. Okay. So now, because I'm interviewing all women to give advice to women on how to do stuff, what is your worst advice you've ever received? I'm sure it'll be from a man.
My worst advice I ever received. Oh, that's a hard one. I wish I knew that. I wish I had that prepped already. Worst advice was when I was literally in 8th grade, and one of the neighbors' fathers said, "Oh, honey, you're not going to have to work. You just find a man to help take care of you. You'll be all set." Worst advice ever.
Yeah.
You need to rely on yourself.
There's always themes, by the way, when I'm asking women. It's always somebody being like, oh, just put your head down and work, or like, yeah, like somebody else will take care of it. Oh my God. Kathy, thank you so much. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me via email, kathleen.entwistle@morganstanleypwm.com, or they can Google me and pick up the phone and give me a call. But I work at Morgan Stanley, and I love, sharing insights and advice. Even if you just want to bounce an idea off of me, I'm happy to do so.
Or hire you, by the way. How about that?
That too.
Women are always
Sure.
looking for other professional women to hire, for sure. Lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, etc.
Yeah, I have a great group of clients. I love my clients, and I'm always happy and to work with other great women too.
I love it. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this edition of Taking Care of Lady Business. Make sure to comment, let me know if there's any topics that you want to cover. Until then, I am Jennifer Justice. Thank you.